What's up, Dunwoody? Welcome back to the podcast. It's all about Dunwoody, Georgia. The show is brought to you by Dr. Brett Friedman with Village Orthodontics. Brett is somebody that, Joe, you've gotten to know over the last few weeks and months probably, talking about this bond referendum. And Brett is kind of like me where, as a local business owner, you kind of want to stay politically somewhere in the middle. You don't like to take sides of things. But I think me and Brett both realize that this bond referendum could do a lot for the city, and so I am actually taking a side in this. I do feel like this is a good thing and like to see it happen. And Joe, you've kind of led the whole thing, it seems like, you and Tom, and so wanted to have you on and kind of give us an update on what Tom's already told me back in May, I think it was. A lot of stuff has happened, and we've got a vote coming up, what was it, November 7th? For the city of Dunwoody bond referendum. Was it Parks, Trails, and Greenspace bond? Is that what we're calling it?
Exactly, Matt. It's Parks, Trails, and Greenspace, and it's across different parts of the city too. So it's different types of amenities, and it's across all different parts of the city.
Yeah, yeah, and I liked seeing those maps and realizing what part might affect me at different times. The ones that really stick out to me are the North Peachtree Trail, right in front of Chestnut Elementary. My kids go, or one of my kids goes to Chestnut, and it's just a mess all the time. There's people walking all over, and there's little 3-foot wide paths that are crumbling and falling apart, and it just needs something. Needs to be fixed up. Needs to be safe. And then the parade, my darling. If we could somehow get some sidewalks and lots of space there, I would be really excited about that one too. But yeah.
Absolutely. Have you been out to Winter's Chapel over by Dunwoody Club? Have you
I
seen
have, and that's a great thing to show people and say this is what we're thinking. This is what could happen.
And
Beautiful.
when people when say the word trail, let's re-envision that terminology, because look at Winter's Chapel. To me, that's not a trail. That looks like a town. It
Yeah.
looks like it's like a main street.
It looks like it's leading into town center almost.
Yeah, you're arriving somewhere. It's got street lamps. It's got trees. It's got landscaping, and it's a nice double wide sidewalk. So
Yep, and safe.
and you're not right next to the cars walking.
Yep.
It just looks beautiful. And so if you could imagine, North Peachtree could look like that. Mount Vernon could look like that. Hey, I think you're arriving somewhere, and they did a lot more. When you see a trail, our public works director will do more than just to put a trail in. He'll do stormwater. We'll make it better than it was before for retention, calming traffic, put some pedestrian crossings in there. So there's a lot of other treatments that go into play instead of saying, okay, we're going to have this big old wide sidewalk off to the side too.
Yeah. And I think, talking about the Georgetown area, I think people are upset by construction, but at the same time, like when that's done, people are going to freak out. It's going to look so nice and, just really function better. And so, yeah, I mean, can you kind of get into some of those areas that we're talking about?
Well, as far as
Where
the
do you want to start? Where do you want to start here?
What I'd like to talk about is just kind of laying the landscape of how we got here. How did we get to this bond, right? And what's going on, other businesses, and what's going on in the region. So we have to remember, businesses pay for 70% of the city's operating costs. The businesses, perimeter business district, 70% of our funds come from businesses. We have the lowest effective city property tax in all of DeKalb. And if you pick up your property tax statement,
let's pause right there.
Sure.
The lowest in all of DeKalb County is in Dunwoody, which I feel like is not the wealthiest area, but a nice area of DeKalb County, and we have the lowest tax rates. I heard that Tom mentioned it in the show that I was re-listening to, and I mean that's amazing to me.
it is. It's the lowest tax rate. And I was getting a big sun. The sun is coming up in the morning, and I was getting my bulbs. So yeah, why is the rate low? Because we have those businesses. If you were up in Milton, it'd be 3 times as high for the city rate. So think about that. And then we have this layered on when we became a city. I want to say we're handcuffed, but very different from when Sandy Springs was created or towns like Roswell and others. Your assessed value when you move in your house, whatever that line item is on city, whatever the value of that house is at that year, it stays that way in perpetuity when you calculate the city tax percentage. So we moved in 2008. Cities, if I looked at my 2009 tax record and statement and 2020, it's the same amount. So again, we are living very well, thank you to those businesses, right? And so and when you think about what are businesses doing, what are businesses actively doing? Since 2009, in the city of Dunwoody, we've had an $800 million investment in businesses like High Street, like Campus 244, like all these other ongoing projects. State Farm, 800 million. And currently, right now, today, when you see cranes going on, we have 600 million in investments happening. So 1.4 billion of private equity, that's debt. Those visionary entrepreneurs are undertaking weighing risk against the reward. They're saying, hey, we're going to take on debt. We believe in Dunwoody in the perimeter business district. And you think about that, they're taking on debt. And I want to just ask the folks out there, how many people today saved all the cash to buy a house without a mortgage?
Very few.
No. Corporations get venture capitals, they get debt, they get a smart business case, they put it together, and they bring in people that believe in their vision and say, yes, we're going to go along with it. Now, they're going to make a profit. You know, those are but we're here to make a better quality of life for our citizens. You know, those are appreciable assets. We can hedge against inflation, and we're talking about generational, transformational
Yeah,
investment.
it's kind of a normal thing. I read somewhere that 70% of local government projects are financed through bonds. I would have never thought that.
It's quite a large. That's nationwide, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and then what else are businesses doing? I was just last Friday. We had it's great. It's called Biz Now. It's a great program. I think they're affiliated with the Atlanta Business Chronicle, and we had these people that run these hundreds of millions of dollars worth of projects. They're up there as guest speakers, and what they're saying is the perimeter business district competition is Midtown, Buckhead, and Alpharetta. And our competition is investing public dollars with critical economic foundation to retain and attract those businesses. So these developers that are running these high streets and so on are saying, what do they want for their offices and their developments? Here's what they're looking for. They don't want someone, no longer is it just driving to the work, have lunch in the cafeteria, and then go home. They want something to do there. Maybe they want to move there. They want to get around on bike or foot. E-bikes, think about that. You know, e-bikes are very transformational. You get those, they're coming down in price, you can go. These developers literally said they want a Beltline type experience. They mentioned the Alpha Loop Trail in Alpharetta, open public plazas to linger longer, parks. Again, workers are just looking for an experience. Right? And then, so what are cities doing in response to that? Public dollars. Last year, Roswell passed a $180 million bond. $180 million bond. 107 for parks, rec, bikes, and bed paths. 107 million, passed by 74%.
Really?
Amazing. And Alpharetta, you've been up to Alpharetta, Matt. You've seen the city center there.
Yep.
How do you think that happened?
Quite nice. Quite nice.
How do you think that happened?
Is it a bond?
It was bond. It was more than one bond. Alpharetta's been passing bonds every 5 years or so. They put a bond out to the voters.
Really?
You know, So sure, the land's cheaper, a lot cheaper than Dunwoody, but heck, going back probably 15 years ago, they had a bond to buy parkland, and they had some leftover money, and they started acquiring parcels of land to build that downtown city center, and they owned it and they flipped it, but they kept the green space in the middle. It's public land, and just in 2020, during the middle of COVID, they prepped and put together a $30 million parks bond, also for their Alpha Loop Trail. It passed by 75%. It was $30 million. So you could look at all the bonds that Alpharetta does. Look at Gwinnett County 25 years ago. They had a huge parks referendum, and they built all those parklands back when it was cheaper. And then Brookhaven, our neighbor to the south. Remember, we've been a city longer than Brookhaven, but in 2018 they passed a $40 million parks bond, and it passed by 60%. And they've had transparency and accountability, so on. And so how do we get here to have this bond referendum on the ballot in November? You know, we started with having master plans, and we've had master plans sitting on the books for years. But then we re-engage citizens. Let's dust them off. Let's ask for more feedback. And each one of those plans have citizen engagement and feedback. And then we went through and we adopted a new Trails Master Plan with the Path Foundation. And then Tom helped stand up a citizen committee review panel to look through and vet all these unmet capital needs. And of course, it's our responsibility on council to be decision makers. That's what the citizens vote for us on. It's critical decision making and weighting and ranking criteria. So we took all that feedback. We have infinite money? No. We have infinite needs? Maybe. But we have a well-vetted list. So we input it, narrowed it down to $60 million. And by the way, when people talk about how do you maintain those new capital assets that you would acquire, we set aside $3 million in a dedicated bucket to pay for ongoing maintenance and operation costs for any of those new equipment there, right?
That's smart.
Yeah. And so what would happen if the bond passes? Because right now today, all we're doing is paying as you go operating expenses. We're drip, 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 right? And we were lucky that we've never had a deficit spending ever with the city of Dunwoody. And you know, it's interesting when you talk to accountants, there's budgets and then there's actuals. So we have a super conservative budget. We have low revenue forecast. We want to be conservative on revenue. And guess what? And then we keep our budget low. And so we have a 9-month operating reserve for the city of Dunwoody. 9 months. We could close shop. We could stop taking money, and 9 months later we'd still be running fine. DeKalb County in contrast, DeKalb County has like 1 or 2 months.
Yeah.
So we've never had a deficit. We've always brought in more money than we've spent. Okay, so number one, right? And what would happen is that with this bond, an average home at $500,000 assessed would pay $13 a month. So what is that? A Netflix subscription? Going out to Village Burger? Maybe that's a burger and fries. You know?
Yeah.
And so again, we're the decision makers. And then now here's the question: honestly, do the citizens trust us? Have we gained the goodwill of the citizens, all 7 of us, because not any of us individually can truly steer the ship. It's a ship of 7. So think about this. No news is good news, right? You know, we've got tens of millions of dollars in public federal funding during COVID. And you can read on the internet, cities across this region and across the nation got in trouble. We surely did not. You can look at how transparent we were on our website. We allocated those funds, online checkbook, public meetings, council votes, super transparent. And we did a poll. We've done a scientific poll every few years. We bring forth, you know, think about when we're on, how do good, well-run organizations operate? First, you have senior leadership that has a plan, that's strategic vision. Then you have to execute it, and that's our city manager and staff. And then you have to follow up on it with feedback. So where's the feedback loop? So I asked in our budget for 2023 to say, hey, let's go have a poll. Let's have another scientific survey with all of our citizens and see how they're feeling and asking some key questions so we can get some metrics. Because we know social media is only one forum, and that can be an echo chamber, and we want to make an outreach. So we got a great response rate, and one of the key metrics is the city government, i.e. the council and staff and what we're doing, has an 89% approval rating.
Very good. You must be doing a good job.
Yeah. So do the citizens trust us?
Seems like they do at this point.
I hope so. And what I want to say, not if but when this bond passes, for each project in that list, even though we have a plan, that's a concept plan, we're going to have additional public input. Every single one of them. And every single one of them is going to get up in front of the council. It'll have to be approved to have it constructed. So there will be public hearings, chances for public to have input again, and to have feedback with the council and us to get in and tweak it as it goes. Because this project list is vast, and it's going to go beyond another 4 years. It's going to go on another 5 years. Remember that this is the value benefit of having it done now is that we can see these assets inflationary. We're hedging against inflation. We're able to see this, and also the people that use it today are paying for it throughout the lifetime. So if you're going to be here in 20 years and your house, well, the debt's going to be paid off in 20 years, so that's no problem. But think about it, it's just the debt is equal upon everybody, projects across the city. And we can see it here so that those children, when I was running for office 4 years ago, and I was the founder of Bike Walk Dunwoody. And I have this aspiration to create a city where every child should be able to safely walk or ride their bike safely to school. And I started Bike Walk Dunwoody back in 2010, 11. And of course, these kids have aged out now. Right? They're out of elementary, they're out of high school. And so we keep on aging out of not seeing things on these plans. They're great, but saying pay as you go, and then it's going to be, the year 2030 before we see things out there. We can do better than that. So I really hope that people really look at the bond. They can go to the website abetterdunwoody.com. That's an advocacy organization that's working independent of the city. If they really want to get involved with that effort and help get the vote out.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the bonds are a good way to do it. As if you're going to make a plan, you need to have some sort of money to pay for that plan, or it's just going to stretch out forever. And my kids are getting older too, and I would love to see if you just raise taxes, then the stuff might not get accomplished for years and years. Having that money up front allows the citizens to use those facilities faster. It allows them to use the facilities that they're paying for. You could pay in for 5 years and never see any of that stuff. And then all of a sudden, you move and it's worthless.
Right. I mean, think about it. We've got the new park on Roberts Drive, Wildcat Park, Vermac, Homecoming Park. We got great concept plans for them. And it's something for everybody. It's both passive and active use of recreation and sports for kids, for empty nesters. We also have a bucket for Greenspace acquisition. We are actively searching to get some girls softball fields and other multi-use fields and purpose fields. And we're having some conversations behind the scenes. And we really are really optimistic on having that come to fruition as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so our city has about $25-30 million a year to spend. Is that about right?
Yeah, I think we're running. I think it's about 33 million. It'll be for 2024.
And a lot of that stuff is paving and all of the essentials. And there's just not a whole lot left over. And you guys scraped together. Somehow you scraped together $7.5 million to do Brook Run. And Brook Run has really changed my family's lifestyle. I mean, now that my kids are into soccer, I'm there probably 3 or 4 nights a week. It's shown me that a little bit of money can go a long way if it's used for the right things. And, most of the stuff on this list is the things that I'd like to see. And so, I'm down. It's a yes for me. But
well, guess what? That Brook Run Park, where'd that money come from?
I don't know. I would assume you guys saved it up from my taxes, right?
We got it from the DeKalb County Parks Bond. We got $4 million for that. We spent $7 and change. We got $4 million from DeKalb County Parks Bond.
Okay. Well, wherever you got it from, I appreciate it.
Well, yeah. I mean, there was a rainy day fund at the capital excess that the city wrote a check for over $3 million as well. But I'm just saying that if there was no Parks Bond at DeKalb County that they've had, that we had access,
I gotcha.
Right, we would have only done less than half of what we did.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know DeKalb did that.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Is there anything else you want to mention? I guess so. I was a little weary about having you on, as I would have to have your opponent on, and just getting political on the show is not something I want to do anymore. But now that you're here, and I appreciate it, all that you do for Better Dunwoody and all of this stuff. So tell us a little about your re-election coming up.
I've been here. Time flies, right? When I got elected in 2019,
Really
yeah, and then what was 2020? COVID, right? And so you're like, and then look, I've been very active for a long time, but it's all about continuously learning how to be effective in a public role, right? Yeah. I take the analogy is it's a 4-legged stool. I'm one leg, you 3 legs can do something, but 4 is better. 1 leg. The rest of the council and mayor is another leg. I better not take this one last. The staff, the city staff, and public city staff and our city managers the third leg, and then the public. So it's all about me looking at all those 3 legs when I'm trying to get something done on council. We could just show up to council and react to what's on an agenda item, but it's like, who out here on council is actually putting things on the agenda to do things? It's like I called up the Path Foundation in June of 2022 because we didn't have a trail master plan. And then I said, hey, can you come to the city of Dunwoody? And then I call Eric Linton, our city manager. Hey, Eric, can you get some staff together? Because I and council cannot dictate anything to any staff member. Right? It's going through the city manager. Right? So it's all about understanding the role of you. And we are on a board of directors. We are the strategic board of directors level. I get it that things happen day to day. I'm going to have staff execute that. I'm going to delegate that to Eric Linton if it's a policy change and so on. So it's really me being comfortable in my own skin, knowing what scope and effort I'm going to be able to take for my own time. I still have a full-time job. I'm working at Accenture. I'm managing projects. I have people under me. But I've got to be very strategic with the time that I'm working with the city on. And so time flies. And with the 89% approval rating that I believe that the city government has earned, I would just ask that if the citizens, first of all, I had to ask my wife if she was okay with me running again. Seriously. And she's said, okay. And then I'm asking to say, if you believe we've been doing a good job, and then in me in particular, for instance, and I've been collaborating, helping getting things done, then I would ask for consideration for a continuance for another 4 years. That's where I am. And I'm comfortable in my own shoes, and it's been really an honor, an extreme honor, to see the changes, to go to these ribbon cuttings, to go to these groundbreakings, to talk to these people, to we're changing both operationally what we're doing. We're having strategic retreats at the council level. 4 years ago, we were not, and we had joint meetings with our development authority, our planning commission. Never done that before, so we're truly working behind the scenes on our operational structure as a council, how we interact amongst each other, and we interact with other entities here, just to really to be the most effective we can, and along with our nonprofit partners, which we love those folks out there too.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody work as hard as you did to get elected 4 years ago. And it seems as if you've just taken that right on to council and, making it at times more difficult for the council as they're having to, react to the things that you're bringing up that might not always be good. But, we appreciate that as in the city. And, this whole the Better Dunwoody thing is really changed my view of the government and how we spend money. And I've kind of dove more into it, and it just seems like an easy vote for me. So hopefully come November 7th, other people will see it that way too.
November 7th, and early voting starts on early voting starts on October 17th actually as well. So you can get that out. You can even apply for a mail-in ballot. So it's all out there. DeKalb County voter registration. Just look that up online and so on.
And people could go to abetterdunwoody.com to get signs. You can go there to find out more information about what you may or may not be voting on. And November 7th, big day.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks a lot for coming on, Joe. And thanks for everything you do for the city.
Absolutely. Great. Awesome time. Thanks for having me.